Joining us right now is the Fremantle Dockers coach in Mark Harvey. Harvs, how are you, mate?
Good evening, boys.
Nice to talk to you. Well, you must be pretty happy with the start. To beat two of the top 8 teams from last season is the way that you would have wanted as a coach in a club.
Yeah, it is, and probably in the next 2 weeks, we've got Geelong and St Kilda, and Geelong being the first one, so we're really going to get a good guide over the next 2 weeks as to how far we have improved.
Congratulations on the first 2 wins. You must be delighted with those season campaigners that you've picked up. Ballantyne's playing terrific, Barlow, and geez, I tell you what, Silvani's been impressive.
Yeah, Silvani and Broughton on the back of, even I thought, Van Berlo was okay in patches too. So these mature age rookies have been a revelation for us, and what they've done is, and they allow our younger players to hopefully evolve and develop, and hence we don't perhaps have to play as many of them as early as we have over the last couple of years.
Had you seen that confidence coming across the pre-season halves? I mean, of course, when you got into the NAB Cup, things started to fall into place, and we saw it firsthand, and we all thought, well, question mark, can they do it in the real season? Was it evident across the pre-season that the penny may have dropped with some of these blokes?
But I thought we had a lot more stability in our structures. We tended to keep a lot of the playing group in their lines together throughout the course of training, and so what I mean by that is the defensive players trained a lot together, hence the midfield and the forwards as well. So there's been a lot of chemistry that's evolved over the last 4 or 5 months, and I think that's been the major attribute towards what's going on at the moment.
You've also got pressure from outside the team. You've got Pearce and Dodd and Shammer and Robertson all playing well on the weekend in the WAFL. Now, Chris Tarrant, is he in or is he out? How's he tracking?
Yeah, look, just made mention, he's probably a bit like McPhee was last week. He's probably 50-50 at this stage. Now whether the time constraint of the game on Sunday gets too close, if he can't get to the line, well, we'll just have to wait and see. But at this stage, we'd like to think that we'll test him probably as late as Saturday. Chris is a guy that has done all the training, and hence there's not an issue with his fitness or anything like that. In fact, he's a really good player for us on the weekend, and he's important to our structure down there in defence.
So it's not as bad as first thought, then, the injury, or?
No, well, perhaps, it's the first time I've seen Chris Tarrant go down with that's amount of pain, so hence you probably tend to think then there might be something serious wrong, a la ligaments, a la bone fractures, etc., but it's not to be. So, as I said, we're hoping that he can get through and make sure that his recovery and rehab on this particular ankle is right, and that we can get him to play in an important position for us, even though Mooney at this stage is out of the side for Geelong.
Harvs, I applaud you for it. You've showed the courage of your convictions again by continually pushing big Sandilands forward. He let you down, I reckon, over the last year or so with he not being able to stand tall as he can and take marks in that full forward line. But he looks like he's starting to get it together up there, and that can become a very, very good weapon for you.
Well, it's something we concentrate on pre-season with him, judging the flight of the ball a lot more than possibly just doing a lot of rucking duties over pre-season. So, and with that, he's playing with a lot of confidence. He's a headache, particularly when the opposition tend to push up the ground. If he can duck back and find some space at any one given time, we've been using Johnson in the ruck as a cameo at the moment, and that appears to be working at the moment. But at any one given time, we might have to play another ruckman somewhere in the near future, because the demand on Aaron to play 22 games in that sort of vein gets quite difficult, and you run the risk of breaking him down.
Harvs, you made a statement at the start of the season by dropping blokes like Dodd and Shammer and introducing a lot of these new players. How many chances does Adam McPhee get? He's been pretty ordinary in the first 2 weeks of the season. I know going back, playing against his old club, but his disposal skills have been ordinary. He couldn't mark the ball on the weekend.
No, look, there's a lot of different reasons perhaps for that on the weekend. He, as I said, he just needs a good run to make sure that he can train without any issues. He hasn't been able to do that really over the last couple of weeks. Look, there's a big build-up in many ways last week. I thought physically he weighed in for us. I thought he probably dropped 3 or 4 marks where he should have taken and normally would. He hit the scoreboard 3 times on the weekend and created one in the main. So, look, his game wasn't too bad. There were a few bloopers. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but once again, I think the confidence that he'll grow in a team that hopefully can keep forging ahead, I think you're going to see the best of Adam McPhee in the near future.
Half zones from kick-ins aren't unusual, but they are unusual when you've got 18 players virtually forward of the centre circle. I mean, sometimes it's good. I think you do your best work when you go part zone, part man on man. A couple of times Essendon got through down the middle of the ground and you found your defenders scrambling back and were lucky on a couple of occasions to stop them from doing it. Why do teams use that 18-man zone these days?
Well, it's primarily there to stifle ball movement. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on what venue you're on to. I actually think as the game wears on, I think you'll find that zones are probably they're probably getting broken down now a lot more than they have over the last year or two, and hence we might even go back to a one-on-one type of kick-out. It's just interesting at the moment. The game's still evolving, and I'm sure coaches and coaching staff are sitting there and discussing whether they continue to go with the zone or whether they actually change that mentality. The sides that are really good are naturally like a side like St Kilda. They've got a pretty much down pat, and I guess what happens there is all the other clubs tend to study how they do it and try to replicate it. So I actually think in time it may change.
Do you like playing that way? I mean, knowing you, Harvs, and how you used to play physical and play on a man, do you like coaching like that?
Provided it's working and it frustrates the opposition and your team makes it a real strength of your game plan, then there's no better way, because it actually saves a lot of energy from a playing point of view. They don't actually have to run around on direct opponent, provided they can own an area of the ground and as I said, catch the ball on the way through, cause a turnover. Then that's the appropriate method.
Geelong overhandle the footy. They will give you a chance this week. How are you going to beat them?
Yeah. Geelong, even though they may have a couple of players out through suspension just in the last 12 hours, you always look at where you can perhaps find them out in that area. But as soon as you look at that area, there are other areas that they all of a sudden becomes a strength for them. I guess their midfield is hard and tough, and we need to be able to match it in that area. Then to be able to control their ball movement, their link up by hands, and their corridor ball movement. Our last two games at Subiaco have been quite close. I like to think probably this is our best chance to beat Geelong. We've got a lot of confidence out of what we've been doing. I think defensively we've got better, and I think we're running our games better. So all that holds this game in good stead, and I guess the burning question is whether we can do it or not. So that's the intrigue moving into Sunday's game.
Life's full of challenges, Harvs, and this is one you'd be certainly looking forward to. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Mark Harvey here on 882 6PR.